Okay, Chris.
Live from North Bend, it's Tuesday night. Oh, I've always wanted to do that. Okay, good evening. I'd like to call the May 18th, 2021 virtual meeting of the North Bend City Council to order. Can our fabulous clerk please call the roll?
All council members are present, Your Honor.
Here. Okay. On tonight's consent agenda, we have 4 items. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Laudenbach and, sorry, Ms. Miller, a second by Mr. Gothelf. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All against? The motion carries and is unanimous. Citizens' comments. Now is the time for members of the public to come forward to speak on items that are not on the agenda tonight. If you'd like to speak, please indicate using the chat feature or *9 on your phone, and Ms. Mascow will call on you when it's your turn to speak. You'll need to state your name and address for the record, please, and you'll be allowed 3 minutes to speak.
Steve Rapanich, I apologize for not saying your name correctly. You can please unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes.
Okay. Yes, Steve Rapanich. I live at 394 Merritt Place Northeast. Whoops, I'm not sure what happened to my video.
Video doesn't.
Oh, can't.
On.
Oh.
Please continue speaking.
Oh, okay. I can't start my video. Okay. So anyway, I actually sent an email to the council concerning the article in the Valley Record. Jim Curtis is a veteran, and I'm not sure if anybody read that article, but I'm also a veteran, a retired Air Force officer, and I didn't know the history of E.J. Roberts. So I was unpleasantly surprised by that information, since I live right next door to E.J. Roberts Park. So I'm in favor of renaming the park. I'm not sure, it would be great to honor the vets with the Five Eagles Park, like Jim mentioned, but any name other than the name of a racist would be wonderful to do that. And I'd like the status on that from any of the council members. Thank you.
Anna Sullivan, please unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Anna Sullivan. I live at 43105 Southeast 149th Street. I actually have the exact same topic as Steve, so I won't belabor the point, but my questions are maybe a little bit different. As I dug into it more, it did seem like the E.J. Roberts story is not, it was new to me, but it doesn't seem like it's new to our community. And I was curious if this has been brought up before, what decisions were made and why, and if there are next steps to be had, how we can go about those. So same topic.
I am not seeing anybody else.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you for your comments. The commission and committee reports, Planning Commission, Parks Commission, and Economic Development Commission. Ms. Deming, would you please give us staff reports for each commission?
Sorry, just needed to unmute myself there. At the Planning Commission's May 13th meeting, we held a public hearing on the draft development agreement to allow an 8-foot increase in the height limit for a potential senior housing development on North Bend Way in exchange for the developer providing 10% of the units within the development as permanent affordable housing. Public comment was received, most of which was focused on concerns about potential flood impacts from the development of the property. At the May 13th meeting, staff also introduced amendments to North Bend Municipal Code 18.22, temporary uses. These amendments would provide a means for utility and government entities who are building infrastructure projects to utilize their property for storage needs on a temporary basis. And we are having a public hearing on it at the next meeting to also introduce an amendment to allow for training facilities for government or utility agencies. We also have at the next May 27th Planning Commission meeting, they will provide their recommendation regarding the Senior Housing Development Agreement. The Parks Commission did not meet in April. Their next meeting will be May 26th, and they will be touring various city parks to discuss potential park projects and maintenance needs for considering amendments to the Parks Capital Facilities Plan and potential recommendations for use of the annual park maintenance budget. At the April 27th meeting, the Economic Development Commission continued work on the North Bend Economic Development Plan, including a scope of work for a consultant to assist in the preparation. As part of the Economic Development Plan, commissioners completed a prioritized strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats SWOT analysis. The Economic Development Commission at the next meeting on May 25th are expected to finalize that SWOT analysis, and they're going to bring and start developing policies and objectives for the plan. Additionally, the commissioners will review outdoor recreation resources. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Community and Economic Development Committee, Ms. Miller.
Okay, we were to meet today, that was canceled, and we are looking forward to meeting on the 15th of June.
Okay, thank you. Finance and Administration, Mr. Gothelf.
The Finance Administration did not meet in May. We are meeting in June. Have we set a new date for that, Don, or?
We have not.
Okay. We will be getting a date out because there's some conflict with the schedule. Thank you.
Okay. Public Health and Safety.
Excuse me.
No, you don't get to talk.
But I tried to get in earlier when the appropriate time and I put my name in the chat and nothing happened.
There was not another name in the chat. Ms. Buckner has been, excuse me, Ms. Buckner has been having issues getting in and out, bouncing in and out of the meeting. So she may be having some technical issues.
Okay, so Ms. Buckner, at the end of the committee reports, I will allow your public comment for 3 minutes, but right now we're going to continue with this, okay?
Thank you, Councilman Garcia.
Okay. Public Health and Safety, Ms. Colon.
Yes, so Public Health and Safety, we met on May 11th at 4 p.m. via Microsoft Teams. We were presented with about Community Court by Judge Stewart. They're going to do a soft launch August 1st. This court uses a problem-solving approach to crime that addresses the participants' underlying reason for committing lower-level offenses and aims to combat the revolving door on the criminal justice system. The second thing we talked about was discussion on the fireworks ban in unincorporated King County, and we will be talking about that more at the work study on May 25th. Eastside Fire and Rescue, Chief Clark presented, and he said there's potential training ground they would like to use on Mount Si Road and North Bend Way. It's a 2-acre lot. And then he gave the fire update, mostly about Mass Site Drive will end on June 12th. And they've given over 20,000 doses to date. We had a police update by Nick Almquist, and they are working on getting grants for a safe schools project. They are requesting speed beacons to improve safety for pedestrian traffic. Thank you, Chris.
Absolutely. Transportation, Public Works, also known as the Get It Done Committee, because I'm sure you guys have met. Mr.
Yes.
Lautenbach.
Yes, we have, Your Honor, and thank you very much. We last met on April 27th, virtual meeting via Teams. We discussed the Meadowbrook Sewer ULID update. We had Brian Tucker tell us about a closeout on the Pulte Homes subdivision. We also had an engineering services contract with Gray and Osborne for the booster station and Reservoir Tower. We discussed the downtown maintenance contract, which we encourage them to approve. We talked with Ted Stonebridge, approving a professional services contract with Hydrago for water leak detection. And so we should have a comprehensive report back in the next month or two. We had a professional services contract with RH2 for water main design along Pickett Avenue. And we talked about some right-of-way access for the Middle Fork Road with Mr. Rigos. And we have a couple other items that we discussed that are going to be on the agenda later this evening. So we'll look forward to discussing them at that time. Our next meeting will be May 25th at 4 p.m. Virtually via Teams.
Okay. Our last work study, April 27th, was canceled because we had done it after one of the previous meetings. And our next work study will be Tuesday, May 25th. Regional committees. Anybody have any regional committees?
Sound City Association had a briefing with Patty Hayes, the Director of Public Health today. That was at 10 a.m. via Zoom. They admit that the CDC decision about wearing or not wearing masks is very confusing, and this has caused chaos among businesses in King County doing their own thing. They want you to know that there is plenty of vaccine available to those who are ready to get it. And they are worried about the misinformation in regards to young women about fertility and pregnancy and the vaccine, and they want them to know it's safe and for us to spread the word. And they want to thank Kroger for continuing masking for now. And vaccines are coming for our kids under the age of 12 soon.
Okay. Mr. Gothelf.
Did we not want a East Side Fire and Rescue update?
No, we do.
Oh, okay.
It's last on my list.
Oh, sorry.
I'm getting to you.
Okay, I'll shut up till you're ready for me.
Okay. Any other regional committees?
The SCA did not meet this month. We'll meet next month.
Okay. Mr. Rosen, did I just see you raise your hand, or were you adjusting your camera?
Adjusting my camera as usual.
Okay, thank you. The Snoqualmie Valley Watershed Forum meets tomorrow, 3:30 to 5:30 via Zoom as well. Would really like to find somebody to maybe start coming to those that's interested. Maybe give me a call, because we actually have the chair for that right now, and it might be a smooth transition as somebody could start coming to those meetings. Any other regional reports? Okay, seeing none. East Side Fire and Rescue Board, Mr. Gothelf.
Thank you. Well, the East Side Fire and Rescue Board met on May 13th, 2021, virtual meeting like everybody else. During the meeting, the fire chief briefed us on COVID vaccination, similar to what Heather said, that they had between 15 to 20,000 doses of Moderna vaccine that they gave out to residents. We also talked about the PFAS committee did not meet this month. We're continuing to move forward on a work plan for the new $300,000 funding that needs to be completed by the end of June 2022. And then we sent a technical memorandum to the city of Issaquah detailing our concerns with the model that has been created by the city's consultant. And we will have further discussions about that. Another topic of discussion, which is important for us all to realize, is brush fires. As an example, the type of wildfires Stephen might expect. He talked a little bit about starting back up Firewise and getting out to the community and getting back out. Last year, we were going to put together a bunch of Firewise programs to the homeowners and homeowners association, and we weren't able to do it during COVID. So we plan on trying to get that back out this summer, and we'll be doing a lot of marketing towards that as to how to maintain your property if you're close to an area that would be of concern. We did again discuss the same thing that Heather talked about, the King County fireworks ban. Again, realize this does not go into effect till 2022, so it will not affect this year. And I hear it will be placed on a work study for our discussion. A letter was sent out to cities by East Side Fire and Rescue about COVID funding request, and hopefully the city received that. We also were briefed on the fire at Eggs and Us and the nail salon in Gilman Village. And based upon what's going on, they will be conducting a post-incident analysis of the operations. And for those that may not know what happened is there was a fire in the morning and it flared. Oh, it was fire at night. East Side Fire and Rescue cleared out the fire. It was down, everything was fine. In the middle of the night, it flared back up and basically burnt down the restaurant. We suspect that it was either an ember that was just sitting in the insulation that might have been just that finally combusted after we left, but we'll know more about it as we move forward. There was, in regular business, we discussed the funding formula. We did a quick briefing to all the board members on how our funding is made up and how we charge each one of our partners. We'll continue to further discuss that. Have asked for each one of the members to go back to their committees and councils and get their input on any changes that might be required. We discussed wildland preparedness and the things that we're going to be doing with King County Conservation in partnership with them on wildlife preparedness. We are going to, now that we're allowed to a little bit, we are going to start the warrant reviews where our members will come in and review all the APs on a monthly basis. That will start back up month.
Hello.
And that was it. We did have an executive session that discussed the collective bargaining, and we should see a contract come forward in the next meeting. That is your all. Did we lose Chris?
Chris, did you lose your signal?
It appears that he did.
There he is.
Now he's muted.
Chris, unmute yourself.
Was I the only one that got cut off there?
Yeah.
Yeah, on my end, all the screens, it says Wi-Fi at City Hall.
Okay.
Okay, so Mr. Kenyon, do I need to read my citizens' comments statement again, or can we just take Ms. Buckner's statement and move
yes,
on?
you're just taking Ms. Buckner out of order, and that's fine. No,
okay.
No need to read it again.
Okay, Ms. Buckner, please unmute yourself, state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Councilman Garcia. Jean Buckner, 463-226 Southeast 139th Place. And as you know, you passed a $30.4 million bond last meeting on May 4th. Several concerns with that. The primary one is that it was passed on first and final reading. And I was hoping that with that much money on the line, that the city would provide a second reading of the bill so that citizens would understand and be able to comment. This is a lot of debt that they will incur, and their voices should be heard. Then I want to comment on what Council Member Rosen said. He essentially said that he voted no on the bond because, and he can speak for himself, but he did not want to obligate current and future residents to the growth that would be required to pay back the debt. One of our members did some estimation and assumed that it was going to be somewhere between 17 and 1,800 new residential units that would be required to cover the debt. I don't know if that's accurate. I've got that question for the city. Is that an accurate read of how much residential growth would be required, and or increases in rates, which I understand you guys are going to be discussing later. North Bend already has the highest sewer rates in the country, so there's not a lot of room to increase rates, in my opinion. So questions, would the city please share what the bond will cost in terms of either required new additional units or short and longer term rate hikes to be able to fully pay off that debt? And how much mitigation water to pay the river back will be required to handle that growth. And then I guess, what is the rush? Why not wait to see if the Biden administration is successful in passing this infrastructure bill and hopefully get the $30.4 million paid for, you know, what, almost free? So I don't understand why we're rushing into that $30.4 million debt. And then a few years ago, I remember talking to the council about a Washington State initiative that was going to pay for sewer plant renovations. And I recommended that that be pursued because I thought, you know, I knew we had some issues there. And I would just like to know if that was ever pursued. And if not, why not? What was the catch there? And so I just want to say in closing that I agree that with Councilman Rosen that a portion of that bond debt is totally appropriate as specific to retiring previous debt and perhaps a few other projects unrelated to additional growth. I think that's a good thing. But
that's time, Ms. Buckner.
Okay, can I end?
I think that the rest of the comments we got in your email that you sent over today.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now let's move on to AB 21052, an ordinance amending taxes, rates, and fee schedule regarding water rates. Mr. Rigos, would you like to provide a staff report?
Sure. Thanks, Councilmember Garcia. Good evening, City Council. Page 15 in your agenda packet, and this agenda item is about setting water rates and water GFCs. That's a general facility charge for the next 5 years, 2022 through 2026. There's no real change on this agenda bill dated May 18th versus the one that city staff provided May 4th. I did have a fairly detailed presentation on May 4th for this. So I won't rehash that totally. We also have a pretty detailed agenda bill on that page 15. A quick recap is that we had a work study led by Don Masco and Sergey from the FCS group, where there were some PowerPoint presentation slides that talked about water rates and talked about GFCs and how those need to go up for some of our capital projects. And then, like I said, we discussed this at our May 4th City Council meeting. The reasons we're needing to increase the water rate by 5.5% per year for the next 5 years, and also increasing the water GFC is over time costs increase, whether it's pipes, ductile iron, steel's gone up a lot in price, labor goes up each year. We also didn't increase our water rate in 2018 and 2019. Number two is the city is a mitigation water purveyor. So mitigation purveyors have a slightly higher cost than non-mitigation purveyors. That's just a fact of life there if you are a mitigation purveyor. Third is we need to replace more older water mains. We've got a bunch of water mains that are 6 or 7 decades old that are past their 30 or 40-year useful life. A lot of the material used back in the 50s, 60s was asbestos concrete, and it doesn't have the lifespan of ductile iron. So we started replacing a lot of water mains about 7 years ago, and we've replaced about 8 miles of old water main in the last 7 years, but we do have more replacement that needs to be done. Another reason is to raise our rate and GFC is for large capital projects, and that allows the National Guard to come to North Bend. And so I know that our residents and council is excited to see National Guard come to North Bend. And so we need the GFCs and rates to raise to help pay for that. Fifth, it allows commercial growth on North Bend Way. There's many vacant properties on North Bend Way right now, and the city needs to increase mitigation capacity in order to allow potentially more connections outside the city's service area, but still within city limits. So we need that flexibility. So we are recommending that this move forward. It is important to be current with our water rates, and as these costs increase, we need to be able to pay for these projects that we've got. So Don Masco can probably answer any questions, and I think we have Sergey available as well. So I'll pass it back to you, Chris, at this point.
Okay, does any member of the council have any clarifying questions to ask? Okay. Seeing none, I'll ask if any member of the public wishes to comment. Please state your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes or less.
Yes, thank you. It's Jean again, 46226 Southeast 139th Place. And my question is regarding water rates. And what I hear proposed is that both GFCs and water rates go up in order to cover in part the National Guard, which, by the way, they're government, so they will not be bringing in any tax base. And why are we doing this? Why are we asking other developers and the public, our ratepayers, to pay extra for the National Guard? What do we get out of that? What's the deal with that? Why are we doing that? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody, any other comments?
No one who has signed up in the box.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, Joe Molander, please unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you and good evening. I'd like to speak with respect to the Guard and Puget Western and basic utility infrastructure that's needed in the city of North Bend to support not only the development that we are proposing with the Guard out at the east end of town, but also the, excuse me, the training facility that we are proposing at the west end of town for Puget Sound Energy. We will be bringing jobs, well-paying jobs and taxes, notwithstanding the Guard, by way of these other developments, and having, again, basic water and utility service and infrastructure to the city is absolutely critical, not only for our projects, but as Mr. Rigos indicated, there are a number of other landowners and developers that need access to the same basic utility infrastructure. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm sorry, if anybody would like to speak, please indicate in the chat or *9 on your phone. I didn't mention that, so we'll give this an extra minute, but I do believe somebody else just indicated in the chat.
Yes, Steve Raponich, please unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes.
Steve Raponich, 394 Merritt Place Northeast. Just a quick question. So the rates are going to increase 5% for how many years? 4 years. So that's a 20% increase. Is that correct, or am I getting it wrong?
We don't answer questions directly.
Okay.
Mr. Raponich, maybe you could send an email to me and I'll get that answer for you.
All right. Thank you.
Sorry.
Wendy Miller, please unmute yourself, state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Wendy Miller, 1422 Bendigo Boulevard North is property in North Bend. I live at 6814 Denny Peak Drive, Southeast Snoqualmie. And I spoke about this last time that it was up. I hope that the city will look at this and pass this through. This is infrastructure and maintenance, frankly, that the city needs in order to maintain and build a proper water system. Cities cannot function without these. And as Mark indicated, and I agree with, you don't pay for something just once. It constantly takes upkeep and repair and maintenance. And this is what we need to do for all of the city's infrastructure. Unfortunately, it costs money. The city is not responsible for the cost of that maintenance and repairs. It really has to do with what the market cost is. And so unfortunately, we are all determined to have to pay for those things. So, but it is part of living in a city and having good working facilities. So I hope you will pass this through. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Mascot, anybody else?
I'm not seeing anybody else.
Okay. Councilmember Gothelf, would you please make the motion?
I can unmute myself. That'd probably be helpful. Motion to approve AB. Why do I have an XX on this one?
Yeah, I just noticed that too.
What is the?
It's 052.
Okay, motion to approve AB 21052, an ordinance setting a new water rates and general facilities and amending the tax rates and fee schedule as a final reading.
Second.
Mr. Elwood, was that you?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Okay, does any member of the council wish to comment?
I'll comment. I think it's hard to have to pay 5% for 5 years, but I feel like the can has been kicked down the road long enough and we need to move forward and fix our infrastructure.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Motion to approve AB 21052 and an ordinance setting new water rates and general facility charges and amending the taxes, rates, and fee schedules as a final reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, it passes 7-0 unanimously. Okay, introductions. AB 21053, a public hearing, a resolution adopting the 6-year transportation improvement plan. Deputy Public Works Director Tom Moore, would you like to provide a staff report?
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Garcia and Council. Starting on page 39 of the Council packet, you'll see an agenda bill and resolution for the introduction of the 6-year transportation improvement plan, followed by the TIP table, which shows the projects and their preliminary design and construction costs. Followed after that is the project narrative sheet, which gives some basic project information, and finally a vicinity map that shows project locations. There's 40 projects on the TIP right now. Some of these projects are shovel ready, some are in the design stage, and some are still very conceptual. This is a planning document, and every year, as required by state law, each city in Washington must develop and adopt a 6-year transportation improvement plan. This program lays out a plan for improving and maintaining each respective city's transportation system. The law requires that each city holds an annual public hearing to adopt a 6-year TIP. The adopted TIP is then set out to adjacent local jurisdictions and utility districts to coordinate projects, as well as to the state for incorporation into the statewide TIP. There are several benefits derived from the annual update and adoption of the TIP. These include it acts as a management tool for city council and city staff. It provides valuable information for planning commission, citizens, developers, and businesses interested in development in the city. It assists in leveraging available resources through improving timing of projects and improved coordination of city projects with those of private and public entities. It helps protect the city's current infrastructure and helps to plan for new infrastructure. And many grant sources require that projects be adopted in the city's TIP prior to submitting grant applications. So if it's not on the TIP, trying to get outside sources is difficult. Some changes to this year's TIP compared to last year's. We added a crosswalk project at the intersection of Cedar Falls Way and Maloney Grove, along with some pedestrian improvements along Cedar Falls Way. And this is just to provide some more pedestrian connectivity with all the residential development south of Cedar Falls Way. We increased the priority of the State Route 202 Outlet Mall roundabout project as we received that $1.4 million federal grant for design. We increased the priority of the State Route 202 and 4th Street roundabout project as we received another $800,000 in federal grant money for design. And we added a storm and roadway reconstruction project along Northeast 8th Street in the Silver Creek neighborhood. Staff met with the Transportation and Public Works Committee on April 27th. They recommended moving forward with the TIP as is, but did request council work study to discuss the McClellan Alley Improvements Project that was added a few years back. And staff will get working on that work study schedule. I'm happy to take any input from council, as this is the introduction and first reading of the 6-year TIP that will remain open until June 15th with an adopted plan due to the state by July 1st. To date, we only received one email comment on this, and it was for the South Fork Avenue Extension Project. And I believe Susie provided that to all the council members. That concludes my report.
Okay. Any members of the council have any clarifying questions? Okay, seeing none. This is a public hearing, so I now open the public hearing on a resolution adopting the 6-year transportation improvement plan. If you'd like to speak, please indicate so using the chat feature or *9 on your phone, and Ms. Maskow will call on you when it's your time to speak. You will again need to please state your name and address for the record, and you will be allowed 3 minutes to speak.
I don't see anyone jumping to speak right now.
Okay, then I will, the public hearing will stay open until the June 15th, 2021 council meeting. For those that wish to submit additional comments on the 6-year TIP, also please feel free to email. We always get the emails that people send to us. Council Member Laudenbach, will you please make the motion?
Absolutely. Thank you, Your Honor. Motion to approve AB 21-053, a resolution adopting the 6-year TIP Transportation Improvement Plan 2022 to 2027 as a first reading and continuing the public hearing until the June 15th, 2021 City Council meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mary? Ms. Miller? Okay. Thank you. Mr. Laudenbach, would you like to comment on the motion?
Tom, great job. It is a planning document, as the staff is very good at doing. They're reaching out at all times to help find outside resources to fund these projects. The ranking number is always something that is, discussed, and it's a placeholder, and the projects will rise and fall depending on sometimes adjacent projects and mobilization fees that can be saved in some of these instances, and the availability of grant funding. So I would encourage that we give it a due pass tonight, and or we're not voting tonight, it's just a first reading. But just moving forward, please consider it as a well-constructed document and a good blueprint going forward.
Ms. Miller, would you like to comment?
Certainly. Well, there's a lot ahead that we are going to get on, and these documents are really well done. That's my opinion. I'm very appreciative of all the hard work going into it, and also the level of detail, attention to detail. So it's a working document that is going to be exciting.
Okay. Any other members wish to speak? Members of the council?
I'm excited to see the roundabouts going in. I think they've been very helpful for traffic flow and safety, and I look forward to them being constructed.
Okay. I'm going to comment then, if I don't see anybody else raising their hand. I think I'm excited. I think one of the things that's nice to me is this is a well balanced between pedestrian access to the downtown and the vehicle traffic. I think that the connectivity factor is big, especially this time of the year, maybe not so much today, but the last week of seeing a lot of people out walking, and kids and dogs and whatnot. It's nice to be able to get those people safely into town, especially until we can get some parking and stuff in the downtown. Anybody that could walk to town certainly helps. Okay. So then I'm going to Make the motion to approve AB 21053, a resolution adopting the 6-year Transportation Improvement Plan 2022 to 2027 as a first reading and continuing the public hearing until June 15th, 2021 council meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously, and we will bring this back up on June 15th. Next, we have AB 21054, a resolution authorizing agreement with Washington State Department of Enterprises Services for the wastewater treatment plant high priority improvements phase 2 project. That's a mouthful. Mr. Rigos, would you please give us the staff report?
You bet. Thanks, Councilmember Garcia. Hello, Council, page 55 in your packets. And this is going to be a 5-part agenda bill. The first part is going to be a project overview provided by City Engineer Don DeBurr, kind of what's been done the last couple years. Part 2 is me addressing some costs, extra costs that came up over the last 6 months. And then part 3 is how we're going to address that funding gap. And then part 4 is a brief, very brief presentation from Train. And so they are the contractor that we've used for this design build procurement process during the last 17 months. So Angie Esty from Train will be providing a couple slides and a PowerPoint to council, just describing what's been done the last 6 to 9 months or so. And then I'll close it out kind of an option or part 5 to this agenda bill. So I'm gonna pass it over to Don DeBurr to have him tell us where we're at this point. Don?
Thank you, Mark and Council. So in February 2018, the North Bend City Council adopted the Wastewater System Facilities Plan, which contained a large list of projects that needed to be done in the sewer system. From that list, we plucked the most pressing projects and formed those into what's known as the High Priority Improvements Phase 1 project. That project was developed under a traditional design bid build model, and McClure & Sons was the successful low bidder on that. The project is currently about 95% complete and is anticipated to be physically complete in 1 to 2 months. The remainder of the projects at the wastewater treatment plant were combined into this project that we're talking about this evening, which is the High Priority Improvements Phase 2 project. So this project is intended to further improve redundancy, reliability, worker safety, capacity, water quality required Department of Ecology upgrades, and odor control. There's a comprehensive list of the individual projects that were combined to form this project in the agenda bill. I'm not going to go over those unless I'm asked specific questions about that. Anyone having a question about that, I'm happy to answer. So in 2019, staff proposed developing this project under the Washington State Department of Enterprise Services Energy Savings Performance Contracting Model. And this is a design build approach. The reason we chose this largely is for schedule. It's looking like it's going to be about a year savings in the schedule going this method versus traditional design bid build. So we chose that model, and in December of 2013, City Council approved a contract with DES to perform what's known as the investment grade audit. During that investment grade audit, Train contracted with GNO and others to prepare 50% design plans and specifications. And once they got to that point, they advertised the project for competitive bidding, similar to how we would under design bid build. The bids were due in the middle of January 2021. And since then, staff has been negotiating with Train on the project scope and budget. As the project currently sits, we believe the scope meets the initial goals of the project, and that the negotiated cost is reasonable for the work that's going to be performed. The next steps are going to be to secure all applicable permits for the project, finalize the engineering design and obtain approval from DOE on the plans and specifications, and to start construction. We anticipate starting construction in 2021, which is going to be before the final plans are approved by DOE. However, the stuff that's going to be worked on in 2021 prior to plans approval is going to be at relatively low risk of being changed during or after ecology review. Those items include temporary erosion and sediment controls, construction dewatering, demolition of the Youth Activity Center, and starting some of the excavation for the oxidation ditches, weather pending. The project is anticipated to last about 760 calendar days, which is roughly 25 months, give or take, after we send the notice to proceed to Train, which the agenda bill says anticipated in June 2021. We are likely going to do that, if passed, probably this month. During the IGA phase, Train assisted the city by applying for 3 grants totaling approximately $756,000. One of the grants is to install solar panels on the oxidation ditch covers. The solar panels aren't currently part of the project, but if that grant is successful, it covers 100% of the cost to install those panels, so we will add that back into the project. The other 2 grant applications are related to energy efficiency of the wastewater treatment plant. Those would replace current city funding for the project. One of them is for $310,000, which is through the State Department of Commerce. We recently found out that we were not awarded that grant. However, we are planning to appeal that. There is an appeal process, so we are following through with that. Keep your fingers crossed, hope we're successful. The other grant is from Puget Sound Energy. It's an incentive for about $236,000. We won't know for certain until May 17th whether or not we got that grant, but things are looking very, very positive for it. So again, keep your fingers crossed. With that concludes my portion, and I will turn it back over to Mr. Rigos.
Thanks, Don. Yeah, so some of those costs Don spoke to was the, it looks like we're not going to get this $310,000 grant from Washington State Commerce. So that puts us a little bit in a hole. And then we were facing some really difficult cross currents the last 6 months with the economy, with the cost of steel going up, the cost of copper going up. And what's happened in the last couple of months is fuel costs have really gone up. I mean, we're paying $3.50 per gallon now, $4 in some cases. And so Train has all these subcontractors lined up for various costs, but if fuel goes up, then the overall cost of the project goes up. So we've had a hard time negotiating down with Train, and all their subcontractors are asking to increase the price. The price that we have right now is locked through this month of May, but starting June 1st, Train subcontractors can rebid their work. So that's a concern. That's one reason we'd like to move forward. Getting back to the cost, we had felt like we were led to believe that Department of Enterprises Services, this is a state agency, in late 2019, early 2020, they said they could lower their fee. But 2021, they're having budget problems, so they're unable to lower their fee anymore, and that fee is $260,000. So we thought that fee would be around $100,000, so that was an extra $150,000 to the project cost. I'm also not 100% certain that we're going to get this Puget Sound Energy incentive grant, so I want to be safe. So what we did during the last month is we had Sergey from FCS Group take a look at our sewer rates and take a look at our sewer GFCs to see how we can cover this revenue gap, because we're right around 25 million. We were hoping to get to 24 million. And the bond amount is either for 24 million or 24.2 million, how that's rolled in. So there is a gap of about $800,000. So a couple ways the city intends on covering the revenue gap. One that I spoke of earlier is the potential to appeal the decision to Washington State Department of Commerce, and we may get paid next year's money in 2022. That'd be $310,000. The city's also negotiated a 2.5% contingency with Train that is included in the $25 million project cost. What that means is that if none of this money is touched during construction, then the city will receive all that $585,000 back. On recent other projects, Train has been returning most of the contingency funds to their customers. So that's good news. Those contingency funds are heavily protected, and DES staff will help the city be a watchdog for any requested use of those funds by Train. So another way to cover this gap is, this is not a guarantee, but we think that the National Guard is willing to prepay $250,000 of sewer GFCs to help ensure phase 2 starts now. As you know, the National Guard cannot locate their facility if the wastewater treatment plant is not improved. So this upfront funding from the National Guard eases the funding gap and will reduce the additional principal amount that the city would otherwise need to finance through the issuance of revenue bonds. And so there's also, we took a look with Sergey of FCS Group on what it would take to fully cover this $1 million gap. We had it, just to be conservative, I had it $1.2 million. And it's about an increase of $413 per equivalent residential unit. So if we approve that, and we would take that to council either June 1st or June 15th, then we're covered. And then any of these other grants that we get would be gravy. Contingency money back, PSE grant, State Department of Commerce, we're covered with that $413. But we just wanted to make sure that we can afford this project, and we don't want to get head over heels here. So I'm feeling really good about that. I don't think it's a huge increase asking single family residential developers, plat developers to pay for that, and some of the commercial applicants would pay for that as well. So now I'm going to kick it over to part 4, which is a brief couple PowerPoints from Angela Esty over at Train. And I think hopefully she can bring those up on her screen, or Dawn can.
Yes. Hello, everybody. I'm going to try to find the PowerPoint here. Okay. Can everybody see this PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, great. So thank you for inviting us to speak tonight. I just wanted to give a brief overview of design build. Mark and Dawn have done a great job of really summarizing it already, but just to reiterate here, I put a couple of slides together just to kind of help understand the difference between design bid build and design build, and the benefits of utilizing an alternative procurement for projects like these. Design build is really just a method of delivery that's different than design bid. We, as they mentioned, take the initial design to a 50% level, and then have cost certainty early on in design. And in that design build methodology, there's a team that's put together that is one cohesive team that it allows for collaboration versus, you know, just one entity managing a bunch of other entities and nobody talking and working together to get a project done and have the same common goal. And it can allow things to move more smoothly and more quickly. And this is just really kind of a chart that shows you kind of why it can be faster and more efficient, and where the cost is established compared to design bid build. So that's just an easy way of looking at that. Train has a lot of experience in this world. We've been doing design build contracting in this state for a very long time. We've been in the contracting business for over 30 years. We've been working in the federal area for around 22 years. And in my 10 years at Train, we've done over 30 design build projects, mainly with public entities and mostly upgrading wastewater treatment facilities. So this is something that we have a lot of experience doing and have had a lot of success and repeat customers that come back to us because it has become a very smooth process for them. The procurement vehicle that we've utilized, we do go through an RFP process every 2 years that with the state Department of Enterprise Services. So we do go through a public RFP process. And so the procurement is a very legal way of doing things. And we have to prove that we are still eligible every 2 years. And then this one just really shows you some of the benefits of utilizing design build. You know, we mentioned faster delivery. There can be cost savings because of the collaboration and the entry point at which the contractors are coming into the project. They're coming in at 50% design and can really help guide the engineers to potentially change design to be a more efficient way of designing and a more cost-effective way of implementing the project. There's a single company to really look to manage this project and to work with, and that you transfer the risk to, and that's Train, because Train manages all of the subcontractors. We manage the budget, we manage the engineers. So it's really just Train that you look to one throat to choke is kind of what we say. But also we come in collaboratively. We have a lot of meetings as a team, all the contractors, the designers, and the city. So it's not us just running the show independently in a vacuum. It's very collaborative along the way. So there's a lot of risk reduction.
Real quick, are you showing other slides?
Yes.
I'm seeing the editor view, but not the. I'm not. You must be on different two monitors.
Oh.
I'm still seeing the very first slide.
Oh shoot.
As am I.
Okay. It shows.
It's not a problem. Your voiceover is great. I'm able to, visualize everything you're saying. I'm just.
Display settings. Now, are you seeing it?
Yeah, there we. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I've got to figure out how to. Yeah, this multiple screen thing can complicate things. So I apologize. So,
I can't figure it out. Don't feel bad. I can't.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So this is the slide that we're on. It is helpful, I guess, to be able to read that as well. And I'm really almost done here, but the reduced risk can be a real benefit to the city. Oftentimes in projects as large as these, you may be accepting the lowest bid and getting the as equal type of equipment. With this methodology, the city is getting exactly what they want, down to the type of materials that are being used. In addition to that, there's no change orders. Everything, it's a GMAX price. So, if we go over that GMAX, it is on Train to cover that difference. In addition to that, if there's any savings through this design build collaboration through the final design portion, that money goes back to the city, quote unquote. We actually just don't bill it, and we do a deductive change order at the end of the project. So it may, appear, it appears differently when we're bidding or when we're presenting price to you, because it's not low bid, it's GMAX. So it's hard to compare at the very beginning of a project, but at the end of the project, oftentimes we will have ended up, where a normal bid would have. So those are just some of the benefits. Some of the project benefits Mark and Don already really expressed. Economic development is a real big thing. Everybody's moving outside of the city and into these bedroom neighborhoods like North Bend. And again, the National Guard is going to be moving in and creating jobs in these areas, which is wonderful. And it also allows for future growth for children, for new elementary schools, and also hotels and restaurants to provide for the community that lives there. And Mark already covered some of this too, but I wanted to kind of put some numbers to this. We thought at the beginning of this, because we kind of started right when the pandemic hit, or right after, or right before the pandemic hit. And so we were all very hopeful that, gosh, this is going to mean contractors are super hungry. Everybody's stopped work. And when we go to bid, this is going to be, low bid everywhere. But that didn't really happen, because it actually provided opportunity for people to do work more, because things had slowed down and there was more opportunity with less movement in the world to do these types of projects. So contractors are really busy right now. Not to mention the inflation rate has gone up an entire point the last year. And I mean, you can see some of these numbers here. The cost of timber has tripled over the last year, and the cost of steel has gone up 200%. Not to mention
you need to change your slide again.
Oh, I thought I had, gosh, it's showing that I have on my screen. Goodness, okay. Zoom, meeting controls. Is that working?
That's back to the very first slide.
You can just keep it in this mode if you just flip to the next slide that you were on.
There you go.
Across on my monitor. So.
Okay, there we go.
Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, now you can actually see the numbers. Thank you for alerting me to that. So the cost of steel has gone up. You know, Mark mentioned copper and other cost of goods. Basically, almost all cost of goods have gone up, and that's for many different reasons, which I've also shared on this slide as well. A lot of it's due to COVID, factory shutdowns, supply chain challenges, weather. I mean, all of us, I think, understand what has happened in this past year, and it's been crazy for everybody. And everybody's, you know, microchips. I mean, everything is just kind of wonky right now as far as being able to keep up with the demand. So those are just some of the reasons that we can kind of understand as to why the costs went up more than we had anticipated. And that's the end for us. So if there's any questions for us, please let us know.
So my understanding then, based on your presentation, is let's say that the Canadian border opens and timber and steel prices become competitive and drop back down, we would really see those savings come through in the long run.
That's a tough question because we have bids today, and maybe Mike or Don, you want to jump in here, which I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce. I have a team on the call here, Don Mitchell, who is our strategic, our regional director, and then Mike James, who is our project development leader on the call as well. So the way, you know, we have the bids in right now, and we could try to renegotiate should those costs go down. But we're putting them under contract shortly after we get notice to proceed. So Don or can you jump in and help with this question?
Yes, Council. This is Don Mitchell. I would, you know, if prices were to make a drastic change, we would certainly be working with our subcontractors in order to be able to, you know, renegotiate those, you know, renegotiate the contracts. I mean, they have firm fixed prices to us right now, as Mark mentioned previously. So right now they're carrying that risk of costs going up. But if there were to be significant cost changes, we would go back to those contractors.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, Chris.
Did you want to do number 5 first,
Yeah.
Mark, or do you want us to open up questions?
I'll quickly close this out here because we've talked about some of the reasons on where we're at with the treatment plant, and I'll just kind of address a few items. So the wastewater treatment plant has been, you know, a bit outdated for decades. We made a giant leap in the last 2 years by building phase 1, which had been designed back in 2016-17, where we got approval from Washington State Department of Ecology. That followed our, you may recall, our critical emergency work done in late 2014, 2015, when our wastewater treatment plant, it was a bit troubling over there. And we've made a lot of progress in these last 6 or 7 years. And we have one big giant leap left to get this wastewater treatment plant fully into the 21st century, so we can feel really proud of it. Another thing is DOE's discharge requirements to the river have become stricter. The city wants to keep pace with environmental regulations on BOD, temperature, and minimize our impacts to the river. Today, just the city received a Tier 2 approval from Washington State Department of Ecology. That is huge news. That means the wastewater treatment plant phase 2 will not negatively impact the river. The engineers and environmental scientists the city has employed have been working very hard for the last 17 months on the design. The wastewater treatment plant is almost out of sewage capacity at this point. We've protected some with commercial, but projects like Snoqualmie Valley Athletic Center, the Puget Sound Energy Training Facility, the Wyndham Hotel with 130 units. It's getting, those two prior projects are not in our concurrency, and the Wyndham Hotel is really tight. It might put the city right at the edge. So we need to build some more capacity for commercial out there. The current wastewater treatment plant is not sized for the National Guard, so not moving forward with this contract would result in not having that capacity for the National Guard. It's possible the National Guard could go somewhere else. Inflationary pressures are pushing costs up. We talked about that. Prices are only good through May. Costs will likely increase if we wait till June. So that's a concern. We're actually building this wastewater treatment plant with a fairly modest increase of sewer rates of 2.5% per year for 5 years. So nobody likes to see rates go up, but these aren't giant rates. I would challenge anybody that says we have the highest sewer rates in the country. That's not accurate. And that was brought up earlier. The city has a ton of momentum at this point. I really feel like, momentum's on our side to get this phase 2 rolling. And I think that train representatives, they're excited to go. My staff is excited to go on this project. And that's what we hope to see tonight. And I'll kick it back to you, Chris.
Okay. I'm tempted just to go first and ask my questions, but I'm not going to. Any member of the council have any clarifying questions? Mr. Elwood.
Thank you. I just wanted to go back on a point that was raised earlier, Mark, with the need to approve this now, at least near term, based on the subcontractor rates are locked in until next month or the coming month, and trying to understand a little bit more about what that means, especially in light of the question that Mr. Garcia asked a moment ago. So am I to understand it that it's imperative for us on that fiscal front to lock this in now, approve this now, so that we can start moving ahead with train, because the subcontractor rates and the additional costs that we could be paying as things go up, because prices are going up, those prices would be locked now. And if we don't proceed now with the market trend, every cost going up, inflation and so forth, we would be at a greater financial risk by not approving this ASAP. Is that a correct resummary of what I think I heard?
Yeah, that's correct. I think if we don't approve this tonight, we're really rolling the dice that we would face higher costs in 6 to 8 months. Because if we weren't to move forward tonight, then we would likely go back to design, bid, build, procurement. And so we advertise final engineering plans, and the engineering plans are only 50% done at this date, and they've been working on them for 16 or 17 months. I won't have a shovel-ready project to be able to bid on until January, February, March. And so then we advertise the project, and fuel costs may be higher at that point. Steel may be higher, copper. So that's the concern, is just in this inflationary period that we're in. We have these prices, right? We have this price locked in till the end of this month. And if we don't move forward in May, then those prices will likely go up. So they will go up.
And then, so the flip side of that coin is costs could go up. And I think in your item number 5 in your report here, item G is the one that really speaks to me, is the fact that the DOE is requiring us to make upgrades. And that if we don't become in further compliance with our sewer and so forth, that the risks, the fine, plus contaminating the rivers and just bad stewardship of the river then is called into question. But that's just more of a comment, not a response. But the way I see it is costs are going up, but then also we become bad stewards and can start increasing liability from fines and penalties that could be accrued or levied against us for being bad stewards. Would that be a fair representation? Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, I'm gonna ask some questions then. I'm gonna kind of piggyback too on a couple things that brought up earlier. Don DeBerg, you ready, Don? I'm gonna start with you.
Yeah, I'm here and ready.
Okay, Don. I'm looking at the list of these projects, and while I am not sitting here saying that we are not adding capacity to the sewer treatment plant, but it looks to me that, and I'm going to just cherry pick some of these things because I can. I mean, there's new fencing, there's a backup generator, decommission existing MCC in existing control building, rerouting the plant cycle, recycle flows. There's a lot of this project that has nothing to do with adding capacity, but actually fixing existing problems and Department of Ecology and addressing a Department of Ecology issues. Would you say that's a fair statement?
I would, yes.
Okay. And then on the financing of this, my understanding is that we would need roughly about 1,400 ERUs to pay for this.
No, it's really more about a mix of commercial and residential. So commercial will pay, National Guard will be paying a big chunk of money for sewer GFCs, just like the Puget Sound Energy Training Facility. So right now our single family residential GFC is about $15,000 per unit. You know, I'm guessing, and this is a $24 million, $25 million project, you have 1,000 of those and you're already, you know, almost 2/3 of the way there. There's going to be a lot of commercial that are coming in, potentially some restaurants. Wyndham Hotels will be paying a big GFC for this, you know, close to $1 million. So we're capturing, you know, other people's money to help build this facility as well.
So that kind of answers my questions, but it's 1,400 ERUs, not GFCs, right?
Yeah, correct. It's
okay. And that takes me to the really the next point of that is that can be heavily commercial and does not necessarily mean that we need to add 17,000 new or 1,700 new residents to pay for this. In fact, we could adopt a policy that we have currently that reserves a lot of this capacity for commercial use. Is that correct?
You're 100% correct.
Okay, so thank you. I hopefully that answers some questions that were asked earlier in the evening. I think that I'm going to try not to throw people under the bus here, but for a long time there was a notion that our sewer treatment plant was going to function just fine, and that the growth would take care of this. And I think that somewhere along the line, a few years back, I don't know, Mark, how long have you been at the city?
7 years.
So let's say 7 years ago, there was a realization that, hey, there's some things wrong with your sewer treatment plant. And while there's a lot of work that's been done over the last few years to get this thing up to compliance, part of that is because we were led to believe that everything was fine over there when in actuality it really wasn't. So I think that some of this stuff probably should have been addressed 14, 15 years ago, but we didn't have the proper guidance for that. And you know, I'm not trying to blame anybody. I'm just saying that these are things that have been deferred. Again, just like the water mains, right? And so now all these costs are coming up now. And that's hard. And I think that we're doing a pretty good job of you know, you're talking about 2.5% increases in the sewer. I mean, there's just CPI adjustment at that point, right? It's not a huge, increase. And I'm not trying to minimize the increase of people, but it seems to me that what we're doing is we're fixing what we need to fix, and in that we're adding some capacity. But a lot of this, would you say, Mark, is just negligence, and some of it is new regulation? Would you say that's a fair statement?
Yeah, you could break it out into a third deferred maintenance negligence from previous decades, just not spending enough attention to it. A third is stricter requirements from Department of Ecology. You have threatened orca and Chinook that you didn't have 20, 30 years ago. And then a third of this is capacity based for commercial projects. And, there's bound to be some residential as well.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions before we move forward? Okay. Councilmember Laudenbach, would you please make the motion?
I'd be happy to make the motion, Your Honor. Motion to approve AB 21-054, resolution authorizing an agreement with the Department of Enterprise Services, DES, for final design and construction of the wastewater treatment plant high priority improvements phase 2 project.
Do we have a second?
Oh, that's me.
Ms. Miller, second. Mr. Laudenbach, would you like to speak to the motion?
We've had a very informative presentation this evening. Those of us who've been on the council for a little while have been living with this issue for quite some time. This is the culmination of years of effort to get our plant up to snuff and prepared to move the community into the future. I'm a firm believer that the time is now to pass this, to lock in the costs. I think anybody who looks down the road at some of the things that could be potentially inflationary in our economy could see that the risk is far greater to not act than to act this evening. So I'm going to encourage everybody to vote a do pass.
Okay, so I've made a huge blunder, and I forgot to ask if any member of the public, this is like spelled out for me perfectly by our fabulous clerk, and I just missed a line. So if any member of the public wishes to comment, please indicate in the chat box or star 9 on your phone. Please state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. And I apologize for stepping out of order there. So Ms. Mascow, do we have any public comment?
Wendy Miller, please unmute yourself, state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Sorry, I had to find my unmute button. Apologize. Wendy Miller, 6814 Denny Peak Drive Southeast, Snoqualmie, Washington, 98065. And we are the property owners at 1422 Bendigo Boulevard North, where we are doing a development. And I just have a prepared statement here that reading the city's own mission statement, it states that the city, in conjunction with its citizens, would like to blend and balance the following principles. And I just wanted to touch on some of these principles because I thought they were quite telling for tonight. And that is, number one, a high level of police, fire, and emergency medical services, which should be number one. And frankly, nobody really has an issue paying for these fine folks to protect us and treat us. But when people do start questioning on things to pay for, I look at number two, which is build and maintain healthy infrastructure. I believe this is exactly what we're talking about tonight. It's the city's job. One of their main purposes actually is to build and maintain healthy infrastructure. And I've heard over the last 6 years, development needs to pay for development. And that's understood, and it does happen at a huge expense, but there is a process. It's not reasonable for a city to take tickets and have businesses and developers to wait in line until they have enough paying people to build the infrastructure, or individual developers building their own mini infrastructures and maintaining it themselves. That's just like the septic systems, which we're trying to get away from. It's up to the city to have the foresight as to what's going on in their city and ensure the infrastructure is there so developers and businesses can hook into and pay for that infrastructure. It is not possible, as we've all discussed in the past, to think that someone who wants to build a small commercial building for a few $1 million is also going to build a $25 million wastewater treatment plant to hook into. No one would give that person a loan to do it. It's frankly impossible. And then number 3 is to deliver quality public services, which water and sewer is a public service. Without adequate infrastructure, the city would be delinquent in providing quality public service and runs the risk of constituents cutting corners and doing things themselves in order to provide themselves services. A functioning city can't have that. There needs to be unity and cohesiveness in the services city provides so that services are available equally to all. And the last one I really want to touch on is encourage a strong local community. You can't do this with housing alone. The city has to get businesses here, and they come when there are a few things that line up. A flexible city that makes the permit process easier, not harder to bring and develop their businesses. The demographics to support their business, which North Bend has a very strong demographics. And finally, the city has to have adequate infrastructure in order for businesses to successfully develop and run their business. And by the way, I've heard that some comments tonight and in the past about the National Guard, and this is about the National Guard. This isn't just about the National Guard. It's about many businesses like my own that are trying to get started and would also benefit from many of the National Guard's deliveries that are planned in the future. So
Ms. Miller, sorry,
feed off each other.
Can you summarize? Your time is up, please.
Yep. So it's the right decision to upgrade and maintain the wastewater treatment plant, and it's also the duty of the city. I hope the council decides to move this forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Maskow, anybody else?
We do not have anybody else who wishes to speak.
Okay. Ms. Opedal, I just got your message that I forgot citizen comment, so I appreciate that. And again, I'm very sorry about that, everybody. I didn't mean to step out of order. So that would take me, now I'm gonna try to jump back into order. Ms. Miller, would you like to add any comments before we go to motion?
Thank you, Chris. I will just say this. I know Ross said it beautifully. I totally agree. We're literally taking a broken and limping sewage treatment plant and bringing it up to the 21st century. And that's super crucial. The times are the times. And I think it is definitely a time to move forward now and get that rate.
Okay, thank you. Would any other member of the council like to speak? Mr. Rosen.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Just a couple concerns here. I'll preface it by saying, while I opposed the bond for the plant initially, we as a council have made a decision and we're going to move forward as a group and make sure we do the best thing we can with this plant for the citizens. So I'm on board to make sure we do a good job with this plant. So don't take my concerns as anything other than just some concerns about how we're doing things. I want to do it right. I kind of wish we had a little more time to talk about some of the things in tonight's presentation. I completely understand about that June 1st deadline. We've got to lock these prices in. And I see what's going on with commodities, we all do. I guess I'm grateful that we're not building this mostly out of lumber. But with that, I am concerned that we're rushing and there's some things in here I hope we have a chance to talk about. One of them is I absolutely 100% support and agree that GFCs is probably the best way to go about this. Let growth pay for this. But I want to have an opportunity, and I hope we will, to talk about how those GFCs are spread around. One of the things I know we want to do, and it's important to us, is to look at increasing commercial growth in the city, or having more commercial growth in the city. I hope that our new GFCs don't start to dent that by having rates that are so high that we scare away some of the businesses that we're trying to attract, especially hotels and so forth. These things really add up very quickly for operations like that. So I do want to make sure we have a chance to talk about that, and I think we do. Some of the assumptions on page 57, I think they're a little optimistic. I love optimism. I do appreciate a glass half full. But thinking that we are going to have any contingency left, heck, we haven't even started and we're already almost $1 million over. So I don't think that one's going to pan out. I do want to make sure that number 3, the Snoqualmie Valley School District, option to recover some costs, that we have a chance as a council to talk about that. I'm not saying one way or the other how I feel about it, but that has been something the council has been involved in within the past. And I want to make sure that we can weigh in on any change there if we so choose to go there. And I'm not opposed to it. I just want to make sure we all have an opportunity to speak to that. And then the last thing I've noticed is with the overage, the only thing I don't see in here is any cuts and reduction in the scope of the project. Is there anything we can do? And that's why I hate being rushed to reduce the size of this project. Some of the things that are not directly associated with capacity, but are the things like and don't take this as an idea because I don't speak to this intelligently because I don't know how a project like this is built, but things like a second generator or solar panel, things that won't affect the capacity of the plant and the ability of the plant to meet code, things that we can reduce and get rid of to bring the costs down. I see here recovering costs, but I haven't seen anything about reducing costs. I hope we have an opportunity once again to look at that and in a situation where we're not so rushed. And I think there could be possibly some savings. I don't know, but I think we have the right staff to figure that out. And I asked them just to look at everything, even landscaping. I know that's my pet project, but anything that we can do to reduce the cost so that we don't have to go so heavy on GFCs. That's all. I do support this, and I understand the need to support this tonight. And thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gotho?
I too support this measure and do have the similar concerns as Mr. Rosen, but I think it's important for people to understand when it comes to the sewer and everything that's going on, and you can't compare this from one jurisdiction to another because every jurisdiction has different amounts of time that sewer, what the heck? Sorry, something happened with my phone. Not in my phone, my watch.
Mr. Garcia, I believe there is a long-standing penalty for that.
I don't know why my watch went off like that, but okay.
Oh, it's his watch now. Yeah.
It was the watch. Okay, sorry about that. But when you're talking about sewers, every sewer is, God damn it.
Hey,
sorry.
Language, please.
Sorry.
Take off your watch, put it down. Let's move on.
It's off. It's on. Okay. So anyways, when you're talking about sewer from one city to another, there's investments in infrastructure that are made. The city of North Bend's infrastructure is fairly new for most cities as you look forward to it. The other thing, when the council years ago decided that they were going to go forward with a sewer plant, they thought that everybody in the city would be going over this, would become part of the sewer plant. We have not seen that happen. We have made accommodations for septic and everything else to basically lower the number of people that would go on to this. So understand this is a cost that we have to charge every one of our people that are on that sewer based upon the total cost. This isn't something that we can add additional revenue from general funds. It's something that has to be paid by the ratepayers. And everything you're seeing in the increase of 2.5% is not a lot, but understand there's no way to compare rates from one city to another unless you can compare how long the infrastructure has been around, how much has been paid off in the assets, and what has been going on with that. So I just want to make it clear. I know people keep trying to make this statement that our sewer rates are the most expensive around. It's really hard to compare sewer rates from city to city. But I think we've done a pretty good job there. And as we've discussed, there's a lot of deferred maintenance that should have been done years ago that we're trying to get up to speed now. And that's also part of that cost. So I am for this, but again, same concerns with Mr. Rosen on how do we pay this and how do we not increase the GFCs too high. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, I'm gonna go now. I support this. I feel strongly that this is the right way to go. I'm not as concerned about the GFCs because I don't anticipate it stopping growth, but if we do start to see commercial development hit that, then I think there's other ways that we can look at that, because I think that most all of us, if not all of us, and I'm going to try not to speak for everybody here, would like to see a commercial base brought to North Bend that provides jobs, makes it so we don't have to raise your property taxes, provides the human services that we all want to provide, provides public safety, opportunities for our children to work and live in the same town as they grow up. And just, I think that this has to be done through commercial development and not residential development. And right now we're at a point where we can't accept these projects that do these things because we don't have the sewer treatment plant. None of us are sitting up here saying, hey, let's open up the sewer capacity so we could add more houses. That's not the goal and directive of this council. I mean, we would like to see commercial development that allows us to have the money to make this town what the citizens want it to be: safe, things to do, places to work, a better lifestyle for people and their families. So I look forward to hopefully this passing tonight. And if there's no other council comments, I'll make the call for the vote. Okay, seeing none, a motion to, oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to ask a clarifying question. Does this need to be a first and final or anything like that, or just vote on the resolution and that's it?
Just for the record, indicate that it's first and final, but we need to adopt it tonight, given the comments.
So first and final at the end?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. So a motion to approve AB 21054, a resolution authorizing an agreement with Department of Enterprises Services, DES, for design and construction of the wastewater treatment plant high priority improvements phase 2 project as a first and final reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Okay, Mayor, Council, and Administrative Concerns and Initiatives. Mr. Miller.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it's no coincidence that today I met with the representatives from Puget Western, with the Army representatives on the phone. They are closing escrow on the property on June 20th. They're fully committed to the site, and they are anxiously awaiting this vote and the finalization of their development agreement. We will have a development agreement brought into us within about a week and a half, along with a short plat to subdivide the property for not only the Army, but the other uses that will go on the site and help pay for some of these costs that you're talking about this evening. Likewise, we are expecting a full PAR and application for the Wyndham Hotel within a week. So we are having progress occurring, and those projects that you've alluded to this evening are at our door. And we're looking to add those amenities to the city and to increase the revenues to the city. So these services that we want to provide are provided for our citizens. So that's just a little bit of an update that we're rolling right along with the action that you've taken this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Regos.
I don't have anything else tonight, Chris. Thank you for all the support for our infrastructure.
Ms. Deming.
I don't have anything else tonight either. Thank you.
Ms. Maskow.
Nothing this evening.
Okay. Councilmember Elwood, where are you? There you are.
Thank you. Got some good work done tonight. I think my main concern, and Councilmember Gothel just brought that right to the forefront, and that's the fact that we don't have our own theme songs when we talk. So if we
Oh, Jesus.
So I think going forward, we should have some sort of theme song when we break into some sort of important commentary. That's all tonight. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Miller.
She has nothing, she says, I think.
Nothing? Mary, you're muted. You have to say nothing. I'm trying to load up a theme song here. I'm stalling. Come on.
I did that on purpose. No, I have nothing to add. Everybody have a great night.
I would just like to bring up the citizens' concerns about the park renaming, and I don't know if this is the venue to talk about that, but is there a place and time that we can discuss renaming the E.J. Roberts Park?
I think that would be something that would probably start with the CED committee.
We can do that.
There's some research that needs to be done with that, and I believe Mr. McCarty had sent one of the concerned citizens the information about the rules of naming the parks as well. So that would be a good place for that to go. Any other comments or concerns tonight?
No.
Okay. Mr. Laudenbach, got a theme song ready?
Another one bites the dust, but no, nothing tonight. Chris, thanks. Good job. Your stewardship was amazing over the last couple meetings, and tell the mayor to go on vacation more often.
Okay. Mr. Gothelf.
Yeah, he's done really well at spending money, Chris. So, we appreciate that. First, easy shot back. Hey, first, sorry about the technical malfunction. And Brendan, the biggest problem was I didn't know where the music was coming from. So I was just thinking I was hearing it in my head. So you can have a theme song, but things are still going to run in my head. So first, I apologize for the technical difficulties. I want to thank everybody for the hard work that we've done to get to this point. Remember, as we start to get into the summer months and more people out there, I have been seeing an increase in speed on our streets. And we do have kids out there. So please remember, we have kids out there playing baseball, softball. Please watch out for those people. And we're seeing a lot more people walking around. So that's a good thing. Again, as we bring out these Firewise programs coming up, I would recommend that if anybody's near the interface to the wildfire interface around here, that you get involved in these Firewise and attend these meetings as we move forward. I think it's going to be important for everybody going forward. With that, everybody have a great night.
Okay, Mr. Red Sox, Jonathan Rosen.
Oh, that hurt. Well, I think for starters, Mr. Elwood has a great idea. I do like the idea of a walk-up song for each of us. And I think the fine from Mr. Gothelf could pay for the production of that. So thank you, Alan, for providing for that for all of us. I'm excited to see the CDC weigh in this week on some new requirements or lack of masks and so forth. I hope that's an incentive for others who maybe are still hemming and hawing on getting their vaccine to get that done. I think it's nice to see light at the end of the tunnel, and I am glad to see that as a community we pull through this just about. So glad to see that. That's all tonight.
Okay, and for myself this evening, I too am excited to see that maybe there's a return to normalcy. I would encourage those who are not vaccinated to still wear their mask. I would encourage anybody that wants to wear a mask in public to still wear your mask if you feel like it. I'm a big believer of everybody's got to do what they got to do to feel safe for themselves and their families, and that as a group we need to support each other. I mean, this has been a very difficult year for everybody, and it's not over yet. So continue to say hi and wave at your neighbors and friends and coworkers and family and strangers walking the streets or their dog, and just try to be friendly, especially as the summer comes along. That gets a lot easier. Staff, great job tonight. This is the culmination of countless hours of work. We, in an hour and a half, the 7 of us got to make this look real easy and say yes to countless hours of work that our staff and consultants have put into this. And this is one day going to make the 7 of us look real great. And nobody's going to know that Tom Morris lived in his office for the last 5 days trying to get this ready, or that Don DeBerg is probably in his office right now, just trying to get this thing started and scrambling. And Mr. Rigos and Mr. Miller and Ms. Deming and Don, our staff does great things for us. And Ms. Opedal has made me look good for the most part, you know, when I can follow the direction on the pieces of paper I get. This mayor thing, it's really the clerk that makes this guy look good. So, but don't tell him I saw that. He could see this on the movie, on the TV tonight. And now I have the Mayor Pro Tem's notes, because these are things that are community information. And for those that may have missed the King Conservation District's May 6th webinar on managing wildfire risk to your home, the city has posted some useful wildfire risk reduction tips on the news section of the city website. King County will begin field work in North Bend from May through August related to a levee breach study of the South Fork Snoqualmie River. Work will include area levee inspections, surveying, and testing to determine what repairs, capital improvements, or monitoring is necessary for the South Fork levee system. Findings from the study will be shared with residents when the study is complete in March of 2022. Information on COVID-19 vaccine availability and the new CDC mask guidelines and Governor Inslee's announcement of the proposed statewide reopening on June 30th are available in the May 14th edition of the North Bend Weekly Recap. The weekly recap can be found on the news section of the city website. And thank you to the communications manager, Dana McCall, for putting out the valuable information, as she does constantly, putting out a lot of information. And I want to thank city staff and the public works crew for all their hard work during the April 24th special recycling event. We had 497 vehicles come through during the 6 hours the event was open and recycled over 32 tons of material. If you haven't been to this event, it's pretty slick. You don't even get out of your car. They do it all. You drive in a circle, you give them your name and address, and all this stuff just magically disappears. It's pretty neat. That being said, from City Hall tonight.
Motion to adjourn?
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Gothelf, second by Mr. Elwood. All those in favor?
Aye.
Well, I lost everybody again, didn't I? Oh, no, it's there. Okay. Okay. That passes unanimously. Meeting adjourned. All right. Hey, my internet connection is unstable.
Thank you.